Conduct a test at the alpha equals 0.1 level by determining the null and alternative. So you have to test whether P1 is greater than P2. So two sample hypothesis testing is very similar to one sample once. So again, the null will always have P1 equals P2. Null will always have equality, and the alternative will either have greater than, less than, or not equal to. So since we are testing P1 greater than P2, so the null should have P1 equals to P2, and the alternative should have P1 greater than P2. So it's this. And test statistics, so it's proportions we are testing. This little p indicates that in the hypothesis test indicates that we are testing proportions. So you will do proportion stats. So let's see, stat crunch. So you do stats, proportion stats, but now you are doing two samples because you have P1 and P2 running around. So two samples with summary. Okay, so in the first sample, remember, X is the number of successes and N is the number of observations. In the first sample, it's 128 and 243. 128 and 243. And in the second sample, it's 139 and 314. And you have to perform, so they write it as P1 minus P2 is equal to 0, which is the same as P1 is equal to P2. And then in the alternative, we have a greater than sign. So, okay, test statistic is 1.97. P-value was 0.0244. And remember, we had that criteria, reject null if P is less than alpha. We still have the same criteria in the two sample testings. So let's see if P is less than alpha or not. P is 0.024, alpha is 0.1. So 0.024 is less than 0.1. So we will reject the null. And when we reject the null, then there is evidence, but evidence for this one, not this one. So reject the null because there is evidence for P1 greater than P2. Test the following claim about the difference between, okay, so is this right tail, left tail, or two-tailed? So you look at the alternative, the not equals to means two-tailed, less than will mean left-tailed, and right tail will be greater than. So not equals to is two-tailed. And should the null be rejected, so for this we calculate the p-value. So we go through the hypothesis test. So once again it would be, okay, so let's use that window which we already had. So proportion stats, one sample, two samples with summary. So I'll just add it this window. So, okay, let's do it from beginning. So stats, proportion stats, two samples with summary. So in sample one, it's 24 and 68. And then 23 and 93. Okay, and then in the two samples, you never touch this null. They always have it correct because you don't have to enter any number. It's always 0. P1 minus P2 is always 0. And this one is not equal to, which is already there. So compute. So the p-value is hidden at the end, 0.145. And this p-value is bigger than alpha. It's bigger than 0.01. So you fail to reject the null, and then you fail to reject the null, then there is insufficient evidence to support the claim. Okay.